behaviour of the UK government. I've actually seen people acting in good faith, and genuinely, actually, in fairness, I've actually seen Scottish Government ministers who very usually privately act in good faith. The public dance within the media and in public is something different, and I know that the SNP have to get from a position from where they are to where they can accept UK-wide frameworks. I know they're on that journey and on that process, but I do believe both governments are acting in good faith. Because the most interesting thing out of this is that the Scottish Government and the SNP demand more powers, that all 111 should rest with the Scottish Parliament. It doesn't matter how it affects the UK internal market, but they never actually talked about the outcomes from these powers. They demand more and more, but would never tell you how they want to use them, because sadly the nationalist narrative now is to just demand more, demand more, demand more, because they want independence, Mr. Speaker. It doesn't matter how much you try to dress it up. The First Minister herself said that independence transcends everything else. It doesn't matter about how the Scottish Parliament is currently exercising its powers. It will just never be enough, because independence is always the end goal, which is why even yet again at the weekend we heard about potential new dates this year for another referendum. And that is why there are less SNP members sitting opposite, because people in constituencies like mine and in Stirling and West Aberdeenshire, just to name a few, are absolutely fed up of that rhetoric. And as the member for Stirling rightfully says, people want to see our governments working more constructively together. Fed up of the kind of rhetoric that we've had all the time. Fed up of the ongoing bickering and fighting and point scoring. That actually they want to see both governments work together. And both governments have demonstrated they can do it. Because over city deals, for example, both governments can work together to deliver for Scotland, to deliver for regions. And they get really fed up when they see the kind of things that you see in Andrew Marr on a Sunday morning, where yet again you have that same kind of rhetoric that up in Scotland we've had for not just months, we've had for years, we've had to endure it. So, sure.
Did the honourable gentleman perhaps watch Marr? The entire session was about Brexit, and Andrew Marr asked the First Minister about independence, and the moment it's asked by someone else, you've just spent about 5 minutes talking about it, suddenly it's the SNP banging on about it.
No such thing. I've been a very good boy. Ross Thomson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I wasn't talking about the questions asked, I was talking about the answer given. And that is the broken record. And the First Minister has always had an opportunity to accept the result of 2014. She never has, she never will, and that is why independence, as I said, for the SNP transcends everything else. Because they don't talk in the national interest, they only ever talk in the nationalist interest, Mr. Speaker. Because fundamentally, and to conclude on, like I said, powers will come back from Europe and will be exercised directly in Scotland by the Scottish Parliament and Scottish Government ministers. Now, I know that the Scottish Government don't have a great track record when it comes to managing things in Scotland, so I can understand their trepidation about any other powers going to the First Minister on many areas. Which is why, no doubt, they want to keep all of those powers in Brussels. At least those on this side actually want to see devolution, not the kind of crazy centralisation which we've seen for the SNP, which is the hallmark of their government, the hallmark of their party here, which is why on this side we'll stand up for Scotland, and on this side, Mr. Speaker, we will deliver for Scotland.